Dog in a truck.
I'm back from a different location. Rhodes Rants on Star Wars. Let's talk about something I've been thinking about for a while now. What scares Star Wars fans, particularly original trilogy fans, more than anything? Maybe even more than Rian Johnson's trilogy. You see, there's something that took place in horror several years ago. Started about 10, 12 years ago. It was the reboot. Now, I'll have to tell you, when I initially read that Disney was buying Star Wars and Lucasfilm, I thought to myself then, I was like, wow, I wonder if they're going to remake the original trilogy. And instead, we got an announcement that there was going to be a sequel trilogy. Okay, now over the past several years, there's really been no genre that has gotten away from the reboot, right? We know that Star Trek has been rebooted. We know that I used to run a horror website. Friday the 13th got rebooted. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was really the first of the reboots. And it's been done in horror to varying degrees of success. I actually really like the Friday the 13th remake. I like the Chainsaw remake. And depending on who you are, you either loved or hated the Halloween remake. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake was awful. It was a reboot and it was terrible. Dawn of the Dead was remade by Zack Snyder. That was the film that launched his career. I believe the thing that might worry Star Wars fans more than anything is the idea that I believe at some point in the next 10 to 12 years, you will hear an announcement where Star Wars will reboot the original trilogy. I think it's unavoidable. It's been done with Star Trek already. In fairness, I'm not a Star Trek fan at all. I like the reboot, but I even said when it came out, the reboot felt more like a Star Wars movie than a Star Trek movie. I'm not a big Star Trek fan. Those movies are just too slow for me. Don't kill me, Star Trek fans. I kind of think sometimes you're either a Star Trek or a Star Wars guy, and I'm a Star Wars guy. But I believe if you look closely, there are things that are starting to point in the direction of said reboot. Let's look at some things. Number one, you may be thinking, well, why wouldn't they reboot with episode 1? Well, they could, but the fact is, it hasn't been that long since the prequel trilogy came out. So in all actuality, they could use the prequel trilogy as a relaunching point. And guess what they've already done? So what has already happened is, we got a prequel, not one, but 2 prequels to said reboot. Rogue One and Solo. And you may be thinking, well, there's no way. They can never do anything. The original cast and blah, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill. Disney is going to care about those characters eventually, okay? If, let's say, the new characters don't catch on. Some of them have, some of them haven't, depending on the fan you are. You love Kylo and you love Rey, or you freaking hate them, right? But Disney is warming us up to this said reboot. Solo. Guess what? There's already a new Han Solo. It's Alden Ehrenreich. There's already a new Lando. Donald Glover. There's already been a new guy in Chewie's costume, and I get it, it's Chewie, but still, that's not Peter Mayhew in there. So, there's two major players that have been recast for said future trilogy. Okay. Now, Ewan McGregor can play Obi Wan in a New Hope reboot. Think about that. All they got to do is age him, and he can play Obi Wan. And there's one of your ties to the original characters, and the prequel float in, right? and you'll gain some old school fans because of that. It's my belief most original trilogy fans obviously don't want to see this happen. But very recently, in the last year or two, even on Good Morning America, an ABC/Disney owned property, they talked about
the internet is obsessed with your look-alike, Sabastian Stan. You've even called him your son. He had a message for you that we're going to play right now.
Oh, yeah.
Dad, hey, I know. I think the beard looks good, I was sort of thinking of looking at your picture, but I'm pretty good with it now. Anyway, I just want to let you know I got orange juice and eggs and everything in the fridge, so when you get home tonight, you should be all good. If you want to feed the cat, too.
Sabastian Stan becoming a younger Luke Skywalker, okay? One of the things they're going to look to do is have actors of this day and time that people know that are in that 12 to 25, 27, 28-year-old age range. Actors of today take those characters, okay? Millie Bobby Brown has been getting a lot of traction from Stranger Things as a young Princess Leia. I don't know how any original trilogies fans feel about this. I mean, it scares the shit out of me as an original trilogy fan for it to even be thought of. But I don't believe there's any way around it. Eventually, Disney will reboot the original trilogy. That's a cash cow, okay? Because you will have a section of fans that won't care. They'll be like, oh my God, all these characters coming back, and Winter Soldier's playing Luke Skywalker, and blah, 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 blah. Now you may be thinking, well, yeah, but Kathleen Kennedy's leaving, and it doesn't matter. J.J. Abrams is already involved. And you may be thinking, well, what's that got to do with anything? He just rebooted Star Trek, right? And before we say, well, Disney doesn't reboot, blah, 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 Jon Favreau just rebooted a live-action Jungle Book, and he is about to release a live-action Lion King reboot. There it is. And those guys are both now tied in creatively to Star Wars. Trust your feelings, Star Wars fans. You will know it to be true. Think about that. Favreau, Abrams is already involved. Both are familiar with relaunching monster properties. Star Trek, Lion King. Both have serious Hollywood clout. You already have Han. You already have Lando. You can bring in Ewan McGregor to be in A New Hope, the reboot. Just age him. It's something familiar fans will gravitate towards. Okay? Which they will hope will relieve some of the pain of the reboot. I don't think there's any way around this. This is coming. And even, let's take it a step further. Look at the Obi Wan movie. That movie will happen. Okay? I know they've said that production is halted on it. That movie will happen because Disney knows there is a fan base that wants the Obi Wan movie. Well, one of the things they were talking about for that movie was casting a young Luke and young Leia. Well, okay, they've already softened us up because now we've seen other actors as Luke and Leia. Okay? So you have had all this lead in, and then they will announce it with some of today's stars: Sabastian Stan, Millie Bobby Brown, Alden Ehrenreich, Donald Glover. Maybe they can figure out a way to put Lando in A New Hope. Who knows? They'll be able to recast and relaunch Boba Fett. Okay? And let's face it, they'll know a fan like me, who's 42 now, well, actually 43, I just turned 43. 10, 12 years from now, will be 53, 55. The fans that are pissed off that are 65 right now may not even be here anymore. The country will be more slowly but surely start dying off. There is no way Disney is not going to reboot the original trilogy. They'll come out and Rian Johnson to do his trilogy. Maybe, maybe not. I still think that gets canceled. But the Benioff and Weiss thing will come out, but it won't do the saga numbers. And then Obi-Wan will come out, and it'll do pretty good numbers. But it will all come back to Star Wars: A New Hope. And they'll, for the next generation of fans. The relaunch of your beloved characters: Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo. This has been Rhodes Rants on Star Wars, for something you to think about. Share, like, comment, subscribe. Peace. I'm out.